And welcome back to another episode of Hollywood Wargaming. It has been quite some time, guys. I have been away a bit. I've been checking out the channel every now and then, but boy, do I have a lot to tell you guys. In this video, I'm going to go a little more freeform, I guess you would say. And we're just going to be talking while I paint. I have some of these lovely new Cadians here in front of me for Warhammer 40k. 10th edition has just dropped at the time of this video recording. And we're going to talk a little bit about the channel, what I've been up to, why I've been away. Got some big story time for you guys. And we're going to talk a little bit about the future of the channel, what I plan on doing, and do some painting while we're at it also. I got a little heavy bolter team here that's been washed, and I have a few of the highlights done, some of the reds and stuff. But a little bit more to go still. I also have next to me this lovely Anger Dunkelbier. So I'm going to pop that open, and we're just going to chill out, and I'll catch you guys up. Now, as you know, my videos are usually pretty heavily scripted. Going forward, I'm going to try and change that a bit. But know that, one, I am not the best multitasker. You will find that out. You're going to get a lot of uhs from me in this video because, well, the Dunkel's taken hold a bit, but also there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of stuff floating around in my mind. I haven't really scripted any of this out, but, you know, I feel like I owe it to you guys to give you a little update as to what's going on with the channel. And, you know, to begin, I want to say I really appreciate all the support I've gotten. I checked back in from the channel after not looking at it in maybe 2 months, and I was shocked to see that I had gained almost 2,000 more followers than the last time I had left. That shows that the channel, even when it's not being attended to, is a resource that people are visiting. And that's exactly what I want it to be, you know? I want things like the Bolt Action Unit Guide to be there for people to check out and reference. And it's a little bit harder with things like Star Wars Legion, as it's changing so much. And it will be with Warhammer also, especially with their new sort of 2-year edition cycles. So, yeah, those ones are a little bit more of a treadmill to stay on top of, but for Bolt Action, that's one of the big channel, you know, pillars, and I want that to be able to be a constant that people can look into. So, let's go ahead and have a quick cheers, and let's get going. So, as you'll see first here, this is definitely not the normal Cadian color scheme you're going with. It's a little bit different, and it's also a little bit of a hint as to where I've been and what I've been doing. Let me go ahead and get a fully painted one out of the box here. This is probably one of my favorite models of the new Cadians, the Specialist from the Command Squad. Let's see if we can get the focus there. I'm not working in the best light right now. I'm in the studio, and I have a relatively amateur setup, but, you know, we're going with it. So, this scheme might jump out at some of you guys. It's Beau Geste kind of style, 1800s, late 1800s French Foreign Legion scheme. And the reason I went with that is because where I've been, I decided to stop playing Toy Soldier, and I actually got on a plane to Marseille, France, and I went to the headquarters at Bagnères of the French Foreign Legion and knocked on their door to join. And I was there for about a month in the selection process, which I'm sure some of you guys have seen on YouTube before. If not, check it out. There's a bunch of videos on it, and that's basically the stuff that I was into. And it was honestly a really good time and a really good experience. And I was issued what they call on commission day, which happens at the end of the selection process. I was issued what they call inapte temporaire. So basically, I went through the whole process. I tested pretty good on everything, except for my sports test was a little lackluster. I passed the sports test, but not exactly the flying colors, and they told me to come back in 6 months and try again, do better on the sports test, and I'll be in. Now, that was a few months ago now, and I'm coming up towards the period in which I can go back, but it's going to be a few months still, and also I have to square away some things here back in the States, so yeah, man, that's where I've been. No BS either. It was a hell of an experience, and I plan on going back. So I know that puts the future of the channel in a bit of uncertainty, but I have no plans on completely abandoning it. Maybe I'll be able to pick it up sometime after I'm in regiment and get through the training pipeline. But it's a bit of a sluggish process to get in, and then once you are in, your free time is relatively scarce, but it's not non-existent. The thing about the military is your free time might be scarce, but you are going to have a lot of downtime on base and such, where I should be able to get some stuff like this in. So I can't exactly promise you what the frequency of videos in the future is going to be or what's going on with that exactly, but know that this channel is here to stay. Whether I'm just infrequently posting videos that I want to post, or whether I'm really grinding it out and going all in on it, And it has been nice getting back to the States and getting to clock back into everything and check everything out and see where the channel's been. It's been pretty rewarding in that regard. Also, my phone got stolen in France, and I don't know if any of you guys have had this happen, but with the way that the two-factor identification works now, where they send a text message to your phone to verify that it's you logging into something like your email or YouTube, it's pretty much freaking impossible to get into your media once you've been locked out and you don't have your phone to get access to it. So I kind of had to I felt like I was starting my life over a bit there. So after I left the Legion, I left with a friend who I was there with, actually a guy from Tijuana, who's not too far from where I live now, but we met in France at the Legion headquarters. And he studied at the University of Granada in Spain. So I went back to Spain with him, and I was in Spain for about 4 months. So I've had quite the adventure now. I've been traveling a lot. Actually, all these guardsmen I bought in Spain. So these guys flew back across the Atlantic with me. But it's been a hell of an adventure, really. And it's been great, and I'm glad I can get back into the hobby one way or another, and we have these beautiful new Cadians here in front of us. So, as you know, it's a bolt-action Legion channel. That's how it started, at least. You know what, let's go and get some paint out. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and stare at this and talk the whole time. I've got this beautiful Vallejo. Of course, I was in Spain. I picked up a bunch of Vallejo paints. All the paints flew back with me also. Dark Prussian blue, which I highlight with Prussian blue and flat blue. We already have the dark Prussian blue on the model here. As you can see, it's quite dark. That's no wash or anything on it. That's just the blue. So we're going to highlight it with Prussian blue heavily, and then a much more light highlight with the flat blue. And you're going to see how that's going to pop and go from this very dark all the way up to this very rich, beautiful blue. I love the Vallejo paints. A lot of people do. I love Citadel paints too. I really do, but these are half the price, and there's a lot more colors out there. So, it is what it is. So, yeah. The channel. Obviously, I have some Warhammer models in front of me. Now, I didn't necessarily buy these to start playing Warhammer again. And, honestly, where I live now, I moved a few months after I started the channel. I moved away from... I actually used to live in Hollywood. That's why my name is Hollywood Wargaming on YouTube. I used to literally live in the center there. I used to work for the studio system. I was in a lot of stuff, worked in a lot of stuff. Then things happened. They film a lot of stuff in Georgia now. They don't even film in Hollywood much anymore, in California. Work got a little scarce, and LA is a city with some issues. So, yeah, I packed up and left. And when I did leave, I unfortunately had to leave my awesome gaming group behind. And while there are groups in my area, I haven't really reached out to them. I'm not going to say I haven't clicked with them, but I haven't really reached out to them. I haven't really tried. And, once the Legion stuff started latching onto me, I started focusing on training, getting physically fit and all that. So, Wargaming took a backseat for a little while. And one thing is that without groups to consistently play with, it's really hard to talk about meta, So bolt action, I can do it. There's some constants in life. It's Death, Taxes, and Bolt Action 2nd Edition, because it's just... Okay, I'm going to use the word stagnant, and I know that sounds really bad, but it also has a lot of upsides to it with Bolt Action. That makes it very charming. So when I say stagnant, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but... And this is an example of where it is a good thing. Bolt Action I can keep up with, I can make commentaries and stuff, I can continue this unit guide because things are so unchanged. It's not like there's a new thing coming out 6 months that's going to shake up the meta or, you know, make certain things irrelevant. I mean, it's also historically based, so it's not like they're going to... Sorry, we're removing the Germans from this World War II game. Oh, well, you know, I'm sure some people would like that, actually, now that I say that, but... bad example, you know what I mean. It's a constant, you know, it's constantly similar, so I can continue to make these videos. I've played enough games of Bolt Action to know what is and isn't effective in it. And until things really start getting shaken up with probably another edition, I can, you know, continue this unit guide. And while we're on that topic, let's just roll with Bolt Action. Bolt Action, I'm going to continue the unit guide. I still have stuff to do for it. And I know you guys really love Bolt Action. A lot of my followers here, you know, Bolt Action is something that does not have a lot of YouTube representation. Part of the reason I started this channel in the first place. So I'm happy to continue that, very much so. And it's honestly, it's really easy to make content for Bolt Action. It's just a lot easier to wrap your head around than something like Star Wars Legion or even Warhammer. And yeah, we're going to talk about Warhammer a little bit in this video too, because Warhammer is how I got into this hobby originally. So it's kind of like, Warhammer is like that girl you dated in high school, and you broke up, and you guys went your separate ways, and then you come back to your hometown, and then it's, yeah, they're there, and you're there, and you're like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, and they're always there, and every now and then you see a photo of them, and you're just like, huh, I wonder what they're up to. That's Warhammer, you know? So, yeah, but anyways, Bolt Action, okay. So, not many Bolt Action players in my area, but I actually did go up to Phoenix one time, met up with a bunch of guys who were playing up there, went to a little tournament. One of the problems with Bolt Action is, with groups, is like, you really got to find your group and agree on stuff, because I learned that a lot of people play Bolt Action 1.5. They're not actually playing Bolt Action 2nd Edition. And that's a bit of a problem. People have different ideas of what certain rules are and how they're interpreted. And then, you know, there's all the issues with the campaign books, which, by the way, I know a lot of you guys want to see campaign books. I do have a lot of the campaign books. I will look into them. Campaign books are really complicated, man. And I don't think... I'll look into them, but I don't think I can play the missions in them. I really wanted to do something where I could sit down and play through one of these books and play the missions and get a feel for it, but there's just too much. There's just too much of them, man. And then a lot of them require very specific lists. As you guys know, in Bolt Action, you don't really buy multiple of the same units. But in these campaign scenarios, there's a lot of scenarios where they require you to have, you know, 3 or 4 of the same units. And while I have done that for a lot of my Africa Corps stuff, and 3D printing has helped that a lot. Sorry, I said Africa Corps, I mean all of North Africa, like British 8th Army, Africa Corps, even some of the Italians and French also. But yeah, it's just a lot. I mean, it's a lot to collect all that stuff and paint it all, and I mean, just buy it all. It's really expensive. And then you can't field them outside those scenarios. So I don't think I can do all the missions in the campaign books, but I will look them over and give some speculation. And you know, a lot of the campaign books, especially the older ones, are really a bit boring and static. The newer ones, ever since Western Desert, have been a lot more interesting. So there is that. This is the worst part. I'll tell you, these new guardsmen, you want to do these in sub-assemblies, man. They're great models. They're great models, but good lord, are they a major step up in painting from the old Cadians. Alright, my video cut off there for a second. It might do that a couple times, so this whole stream might be a little chopped and edited. Haven't fired up this laptop in a while, and it's given me some issues. Computer problems, you know. I'm long overdue for a new computer, but I've been kind of postponing it, considering I can't really carry it across the Atlantic Ocean with me. But now we're onto that flat blue highlight. So yeah, bolt action. I'll probably cover the campaign books for you guys, but I'm probably just going to do some read-throughs and have to speculate on some of the campaign missions and the unit lists and what I think about them, because it's just, I mean, it's a lot, man. It really is a lot. And you know, that's another thing when I talk about your group with bolt action, who you're playing with. You really need to be on the same page, because there's a lot of people out there who want to play with all of these crazy campaign units, and it really throws the balance of the game in a loop. And whenever I did the faction reviews, you know, I made it very clear, I'm like, this is just from the Armies of indexes. I'm not doing stuff from the campaign books, because it would just throw everything in a loop. And while those campaign books do have some really fun, fluffy units, it's just, if I were to grade the armies like that, you know, everyone's like, oh, we're the Polish Airborne when I do the Polish, and it's just like, guys, come on. Most people don't even play with the campaign, you know, units outside of the campaigns. It really throws the balance of the game off, and yeah. Some armies have great campaign book units, others just don't at all, or they're just mediocre, and it's, I don't know. That stuff, that's where bolt action kind of has its issues with balance. And that's, like I said, you gotta be with your group, and you gotta be on the same page and know exactly how you want to go about playing the game. And things can get a little iffy when you show up at, I don't want to say tournaments, but you know, group events and things like that, or pickup games. So, but yeah, the bolt action stuff will keep coming. I think I'm going to jump back in and do the medium machine gun for the unit guide. That's one I've been meaning to do for a while. Get into the machine gun teams, even though nobody really fields them. That's not true. People do field them, but they're pretty, as far as all the weapons team go, they're pretty forgotten. If you guys have any suggestions of what you want to see, leave them in the comment section down below, by the way. Or anything, you know. Just, this is just chatting right now. We're taking it easy. So hard to get in there. Okay. Also, my situation here is I got the AC unit blasting in the backgrounds. So if that's picking up on the audio, I apologize. I do not have the best lighting right now. It's less than ideal circumstances, but I wanted to get this video out to you guys because I wanted to give you guys an update. Let you know I'm not dead. Some of you guys have seen me in the Morty and Glory streams. I've been hanging out over on that channel for a bit while I paint. While I've been waiting to get things up and running. And, you know, I got back into this hobby in 8th edition Warhammer, and I kind of quickly dropped it and went over to bolt action. And then my bolt action group picked up Legion, so that's how we went from there. The thing about Legion is, while my group picked it up, we had a group of 4 of us, so it was perfect for Star Wars Legion, because each of us got one of the 4 factions. But 2 of the guys didn't really get into it. They kind of went back to Warhammer, and me and my other friend G-Man, who we did the bat rep with for bolt action, we were into it. And so things got a little samey from time to time, and yeah, Legion, man. Well, where do I start? I'm going to break some people's hearts here. Yeah, I sold my Legion army a while ago, before I left. I do miss it a bit. Legion has kind of gone in a direction that I'm not too happy with. I voiced some of my concerns when they had the Scum and Villainy releases, and it's, you know, me and my friend, we got in with the prequel factions, and I had both clones and droids, and I loved the prequel factions. They were really fun to play and paint. The models were beautiful, and they kind of introduced them and never really followed up with them too well. They're still, like, yeah, okay, there's models out for it, but, like, it's just, yeah, I don't know. You guys know what I mean. I voiced this all in earlier videos. I would have liked them to follow through with the Clone Wars factions. It feels like they kind of jumped the gun and started doing the scum and villainy, and now we have things like Ewoks, which is like, it's one of those things. It's like, that's cool that exists. People want that. And down the road, I'd be happy for those to exist. But it's one of those things where it's like, online retailers will say this all the time, where people will always say, I want something. Oh, I want to see this. I want to see this. Oh, it would be so cool if we had this. And for every 10 people who say they want it, only 1 to 3 of them actually go out and buy it. And I feel like a lot of the Legion stuff that's been coming out lately is kind of in that boat. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Legion is something where there's definitely people out there who have every Legion release, and they'll buy all this stuff, or, you know, even if they're not a Rebels player, they'll be like, hey, I'll start Rebels with an Ewok faction. Now, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't know. We have like 2 of the main 4 factions that are still, I don't want to say half-baked. They're a little bit more than half-baked, but maybe like 2/3 baked. And it just didn't sit well with me. And then obviously the stuff with like Luke Eddy getting canned and changing over to Atomic Mass Games. I mean, you know, it's stuff. It's stuff you can't just turn a blind eye to, you know. And I'm not saying Atomic Mass Games has like killed the game or anything like that. They seem to be doing pretty good now that they, you know, the transfer is going and things are settling and supply chains are starting up again. But it's just not in an ideal state that I want the game to have gone down. Not a path I want the game to have gone down. And maybe that's selfish, you know. It is selfish. I'll admit that. It's a little selfish. But, yeah. There's that, and then there's also the fact that where I live now, there's no Legion players. So, that game is really hard to stay on top of the meta and talk about what is and what isn't good, because there's so many moving parts in that with how upgrades work, that I was starting to feel like I couldn't deliver my unit review videos accurately. And I had a few unit review videos that were just like, I could just feel myself slipping. I was just looking at the cards and I was just like, yeah, how the hell does this interact? Like, damn, man. Try not to drop an F-bomb on here. That's a little strong. So, yeah, guys, I'm sorry with the Legion stuff. You know, I'll if you guys really want, I'll tell you, comment section down below. Motivate me. I will cover Legion stuff. I'll talk about releases. I'll talk about things. I might not do my traditional unit review for Legion. Like I said, I just don't feel like I can deliver information on, you know, how to run things, unless it's just like fluff, you know? So, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you want to see more Legion stuff? How do you guys feel about the road that Legion's gone down? How's the game been? You know, I've been out of the loop for months now. I've been away training and eating tapas and all that fun stuff. So, let me know. And, you know, maybe I'll just do, you know, just when a unit gets released or there's models, I'll look at them and say, hey, this is a cool looking model. Hey, this looks fun. Stuff like that. I'll just have more basic kind of, I don't want to say reaction videos, because that has like a dirty connotation to it, right? But, you know, I'll give like takes. Let's just say that. I'll give my takes on stuff on a more basic level than the more in-depth stuff I did. Because those Legion videos did take a lot of production, you know. Even though they're just slides, they really did. I mean, there's so much with Legion. There's so many moving parts in that game. But yeah, I'm not saying I'm like out for the count on Legion, but for the time being, I'm pretty out of the loop, and I don't know. I think I've summed it up pretty well. It's a great game. It's a great game. I just feel like it's not had the most fortunate series of events happen to it since its inception and release. And I thought that game was really hitting the ground running with the Clone Wars release, and I don't know what their sales are like. Maybe it's still going strong, but you know, we had the COVID supply chain issues where they were just people couldn't get models they wanted for the game, and that really sucked. And then it felt like they were underproducing because they were used to, I don't know, they were used to sales that weren't as good as the Clone Wars stuff. Let me jiggle my mouse here so this doesn't shut down. So yeah, I don't know. Legion, man. Cursed IP. Star Wars is truly a cursed IP. Just, hey. Yeah, I got a really good offer for my army, and I miss it a bit. That was my best painted army to date. Actually, these guys might be surpassing them now. Those Legion minis really taught me how to get good at painting. I had to try a lot of new techniques with them, and I mean, you guys can see my original Legion models versus my second army after my first one got carjacked, and the improvement just in that period was really extreme, and I really got good at painting after that stuff. So I appreciate it. And I'm a guy who sells a lot of my armies. I used to have a Tau army, I had a Death Watch army, I had two Astra Militarum, Imperial Guard armies before this one. One of them I sold. One of them is my childhood one that is at my cousin's. Actually, speaking of that one, I was able to recover a lot of my good old... You guys will recognize this fella. Look at that. 2003. I was able to rescue a lot of my old metal Guardsman models, and I have them here now. So, they live on. So while I did sell my more recent Imperial Guard army, my childhood one is still here. And then this new one with these beautiful new models, new sculpts. It's coming out quite nice. I'm trying a lot of new things with painting, and really rewarding. Slow going though, these are not easy to batch paint. These guys are real. They just take a lot. They have a lot of detail, a lot of webbing, very dynamic poses, and that beauty that comes with these sculpts is not free. It comes at the cost of more time, more detail to paint. You got to take your time with them. You got to do them justice, You got to do them justice. So, yeah, so Legion, I hate to tell you guys, I had a few people comment and say they want more Legion content, and like I said, if you guys want more, comment in the comment section down below. Give me some motivation. I'll pop in. I'll check out these Ewoks. I'll check out Asajj and all these other things that I've released, and I'll get my opinion in on them. And even if it's just light reactionary videos, like, hey, this model looks cool. But yeah, never say never. I'm not saying I'm done. I'll never say I'm completely done with the game system. I mean, good lord, if I said that about Warhammer, I'd be eating my shoe 4 times over. Okay. There's a lot of silver to highlight here. Yeah, those clones were great, but man, that gets exhausting, painting all that white armor. These guys, at least, you got some blues in there, you jump over your silvers. Ooh, those clones were just a whole lot. And then if you want to do like some cool color schemes on them, like 5.0 first and stuff, it's like, that's cool. You still got to paint white armor first, though. Real brutal to paint clones, man. And Stormtroopers, for that matter, because, boy, are they similar. So, yeah, I got into the hobby with Warhammer as a kid. My cousin had the little Imperial Guardsman, and I went over one time to his house, and he's like, check these out. And I was like, whoa. Fast forward to next Christmas, I had the old starter box. That was like 20 Cadians, Might have been more, actually. Might have been like 40. And then I had old Lehman Russ. I think I had Hellhounds. And my older brother, of course, had Ultramarines. And this was back in 4th edition, where the Guard were still playing with their 3rd edition codex. The Imperial, or the Space Marines, had their big, shiny new codex that just absolutely curb stomped me. And this is my older brother, and he knew how to play the game because he's older, so he had a grasp on, like, statistics and math. And I was just there like, this guy has a flamethrower. How cool is that? And it was just nonstop curb stomping. Like, it was brutal. To put things in perspective, if you didn't play Warhammer back then, a Imperial Guard off this guy right here, this guy was like 72 points. A Space Marine Commander was like 55 points. Better stats in literally every single way. Every single way. So that 4th edition Imperial Guard Codex is awesome. It's such a good book, but it also sucks because everything is so overcosted in points. And it carried into the next edition, and Guard just couldn't hold. I actually played a game of 4th edition recently against some Tyranids, and the Tyranids also had an amazing 4th edition Codex. And yeah, it showed. I was able to knock like 100 Termagants off the table. But lo and behold, I still had like 2 Carnifexes and 2 Hive Tyrants marching towards me, so, you know. I did what the Guard do best, and I shriveled up and died. Fun game, though. Very fun game. Very fun. A lot of details here. So yeah, my Legion guys, I'm sorry. I mean, I hate to come back and give you guys that bad news. I mean, I don't know. Also tell me, are you guys still playing Legion? Like, how many guys here are still playing Legion? You know, I feel like there's going to be a more similar crossover with my Warhammer fans and my Bolt Action fans than Star Wars Legion. I feel like Star Wars Legion crossover more with X-Wing and stuff like that. Oh, and Shatterpoint, too. That's another thing. Legion Who? We have Shatterpoint now. That seems to be the hot stuff. Legion, never heard of her. Shatterpoint looks cool. I don't know. Not really my kind of game, but it does look fun. I heard the minis are hard to paint, but, you know, so are the Legion ones, in my opinion. They have very soft details. Versus Warhammer, that has, like, very sharp, strong details. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but, you know, that's what made me get really good at painting those guys. There's all those soft details on all those models. I genuinely, personally believe that they're a lot harder models to paint. Maybe people will disagree. If so, that's fine. You know, painting's a pretty subjective part of the hobby, honestly. Everyone has different techniques and styles. But, yeah, Shatterpoint, man. Looks fun. Looks fun. I got to see it in person in Spain. The hobby shop there was one of the first ones in Spain. The guy at the hobby shop there in Granada, War Lotus. Shout out to War Lotus. Awesome guys. Awesome, awesome, awesome store. Awesome guys. Lots of people with lots of different languages coming in their play. Everyone's very nice. And they had... The guy there actually translated the rules for Shatterpoint into Spanish for them, I think. Not officially for them, but I think he was doing it as his own like side project, which is really cool. I mean, I could be totally wrong about that. Maybe he just, you know, I don't know. But I saw the Shatterpoint there before it was actually on sale, so. Okay, so usually I pick out all the buttons on these guys, but, like, you know what, let's do it. Why not? If I get really quiet, just know I'm focusing. Okay, no buttons on there because the sleeves are rolled up. We got one down here. Just a wee bit. There we go. I remember when I was doing this on my Death Watch for the first time. I hadn't painted since I was a kid, and I picked up Death Watch. And I was like, oh boy, I just sprayed them black and dry brush them gray. That's beautiful. And they let me, you know, practice a lot of details, like picking out little buttons and rivets and painting the lenses different colors and messing around with that. Where I didn't have to worry so much about how the armor looked or the trim. It's a pretty easy faction to get back into the hobby with. And here I am now doing the same thing. This, by the way, you don't have to do. Like, this is like not... You can just paint over these things, man. And real life in the military, these are usually matte colored, so they don't give your position away when you're like in the jungle and stuff. But this is old school style bow jest, so we're gonna get a little fancy here, a little ornate, you know. This is a hard one. I'm gonna have to hold my breath. Beautiful. Beautiful. I don't know this picks up, how good this picks up. I don't think the camera's doing a good job focusing, but it's also hard to tell on the screen. Let's get a little bit up here. So yeah, I'm a big hipster and I play Warhammer 4th edition. It's my dirty little secret for you guys. Nah, like I said, I played 8th edition. That's when I got back into the hobby. 8th edition was, let's talk Warhammer now, I guess. 8th edition was really streamlined, famous. It's like the streamlined edition. And it got pretty frickin' boring pretty quick. And it became a really basic number crunching game. And I found it very hard to not try and play meta. If that makes sense. Because some things were just so obviously good, and some things were just so obviously not good, and things either just worked or they didn't. There was very little in between, it felt like, in 8th. And that's kind of the problem of streamlining stuff. You know, templates are silly. There's so much scub going on over what is, like, the front, side, and back of a certain vehicle. But all those things add a lot of flavor to the game. They add a lot of things that you don't always think about when you're just thinking about how a game plays, and it does add some levels of like dynamic. You know, they're a bit silly, and I understand why they're not around anymore. But you know, how many editions were Piranhas bad? Tau Piranhas for a long time. You know why? Because what were Piranhas meant to do? They're meant to fly around the side of a vehicle and shoot in its weak armor. Well, if you get rid of front-facing armor on a vehicle, that unit loses its whole identity on the tabletop. And now they're finding ways with 10th edition, which we'll talk about, to kind of bring back the granularity of the game and make things more specialized and kind of give everything a little bit of a purpose, which is awesome. 10th edition, when it first was announced, I think the first big tidbit we got was the leader thing. And I was like, this sounds a little kind of... I don't know. It's very obvious that certain heroes are going to go into certain units, and that's probably just going to be the meta. And I'm not saying it's not the meta, but it's a little bit less extreme than I originally thought it was going to be. And then I started seeing other things like the toughness chart getting expanded, and I was like, that's really cool. That's, you know, we're creating an environment where vehicles feel like vehicles again. It's harder to chip a wound off them, and more rewarding when you do so. And then also, weapons are more specialized. So I thought that was really cool. Fast forward a few days before release, then we get the points drop, and oh no, it's not a point system, it's power level. They had power level in 8th. Nobody played it because it kind of sucks. And it's like, I don't know, no one likes power level. So they experimented with it in 8th. And then 9th, they were just kind of like easing it onto us. Now they're just like, hey, we know none of you guys really like this or play with it, but you're going to play with it now. And it feels a little backhanded because it's like, one, we finally get a Warhammer app. We finally, after all these years, just a simple app. And okay, I'm not going to say it sucks, but it's definitely aided by the fact that units are not that complex, and there's not a lot of points and warrior options in there. I think if those were in there, it would suck, because the user interface is a little sluggish, and it's what I call over-polished or over-engineered, where it's like you try and make it look like a sleek Apple product, but you're at the point where it's now inhibiting the user experience. Because I don't need a photo of Imperial Guardsmen every time I want to open up a Guardsman squad. I paid $50 for a box set of these guys. I know what they are. I don't need a photo to remind me every single time. Like, yeah, yeah. I'm being a bit of a curmudgeon here, but it's a bit silly with some of that stuff, and I really, yeah, I don't know, the app sucks, dude. It's not. So yeah, cut out there again. Gonna have to do some work on the PC after this recording. But yeah, so we got our forced upon us power level system, and it's also another thing is it's like, oh, you guys want free rules? Well, guess what? We're not going to write them. You get power level now, which is just, it feels really backhanded. And you know, there's all this stuff, and then there's still the issues that we've been encountering with balance in this edition. And it just really, to me, highlights that GW can't handle this one edition every 2 year system, this cycle. I mean, it's very obviously a business model. It's not something that the creative side is going for, I think. And I think the creative side is suffering because they have to do it. But I don't think GW can keep up with this one edition every 2 years. I think it's a really bad model. I think it makes these editions kind of watered down and forgetful. And while other editions like 3rd, 4th, 5th, maybe even 6th might be worth going back and visiting, I just don't think that's... I mean, I have no plans of going back and playing 8th, I'll tell you that much. So, there's a bit of a problem with that, in my opinion. It is what it is. It'll sort itself out, I think, in time, but, you know, we're kind of stuck with it now. I do think 10th is a step in the right direction with the things I talked about earlier. But the power level stuff really deflated me on the last minute. I'll still give it a whirl, you know, I'll still play it, but definitely not doing any meta chasing for this edition, since it'll be gone in a blink of an eye. But yeah, other than that, I do like 10th so far. It seems nice. You know, there's some issues, but it looks more interesting than 8th. I'll give it that much. You know, and that's worth a lot. But yeah, points need to come back. It's just there's too much stuff in the game. It just doesn't work without it. And there's some other strange decisions they've made, which I'm not a fan of. But like I said, overall, 10th seems pretty fun. Pretty cool. At this rate, maybe they'll get it right by 12th. You know, it used to feel like with the Warhammer rules was like they were trying to perfect the system. And now it's just like, well, this edition will be in the trash in 2 years, so let's just try some weird stuff and do this, do that. See what happens. Make the competitive players happy. Try and get some new people in, and then, you know, that's it. I think that obviously the corporate mentality of GW is kind of hurting it, where you have the polar opposite of bolt action, where it's just like, again, I'm going to use the word stagnant, and here I do mean it maybe a little bit more maliciously than I would earlier, but yeah. And it's like these two polar opposites, Warlord Games and Games Workshop, and they're just complete opposite ends of the spectrum for the hobby. And man, if you had to press me, I prefer the Warlord system. Yeah, like, I prefer the stagnation. Like, it's just, I don't know. And it's probably not good for making money, but as a player, I like it a lot more. Even though I have a lot of gripes with the bolt actions rules, you know, I think it's a good rule system, but there's a few glaring issues with it. I mean, I'm definitely gonna extend that kind of comment to Warhammer too. That game has plenty of layering issues. Meanwhile, Legion is in its own ballpark with. I really like all the rules for that game. I don't have a whole lot of complaints at all. But then the releases are just, it's kind of a debacle when it comes to the releases. I don't know. It's all over the place. But you know, it's good. You don't have to commit to one. You can bounce around a bit. It's not marriage. I mean, I live pretty close to Utah now, so maybe that's not the most applicable comparison. But yeah, 10th edition. I mean, it looks fun. I like the models, you know. I don't care. I like these new Imperial Guard models. They're awesome. They look really good. They're kind of expensive, but they're worth it in my opinion. It's going to take a while before I get through all this combat patrol here and these heavy weapons teams. I mean, these guys, they just look great. And, you know, this is for me, and when I play with my friends and stuff, I'm not going to any tournaments for this stuff. Maybe I will someday, but even then, I'm going to bring a bit of a screw-around weird ball list. I'm not going to be bringing a... You know, I did a lot of meta chasing an 8th, and burnt myself out on it, and I realized it's not the fun way to play the game. And it left me with a lot of unpainted models, and just... Yeah, I don't want to say regrets, but it taught me something about wargaming, you know? Playing 8th edition and meta chasing. It definitely taught me something about wargaming. And what I want out of it for myself. But I will probably do some Warhammer content. I mean, not like a whole lot. There's so much stuff out there for Warhammer already. And, okay, sure, I'll probably get clicks. It's not like I'm competing with them, really. But I'll probably just do some fun stuff like, what do I think of these models and blah, blah, blah. What do I like about the Astra Militarum, Imperial Guard? Because I am a Guard player at heart. This is what got me into the hobby. You know, obviously I'm in historicals, and these guys are, you know, soldiers in space. And I really like the sci-fi element of Warhammer originally. You know, when I first got into it, all the fantasy stuff, I hated Chaos, I hated Orcs. I thought they were stupid. I liked the sci-fi. I liked fighting Necrons, Tyranids, a little bit of Eldar. Nah, not so much Eldar. They're kind of fantasy too. But, you know, I like the more sci-fi stuff. Now, and I think Warhammer in the mid-2000s was along that train where it was, you know, this is the sci-fi war game. The fantasy stuff is getting pushed to the side. Chaos was suffering for years of, like, no new models, bad rules. And then, you know, Horus Heresy books started coming out. I really think that's turned the tide on the... maybe it's just a flawed perspective of my own perspective, but I feel like Horus Heresy really turned the tide and got people interested in the, you know, the battle for one's soul in the dark future. And I've warmed up a lot to it also. I do... I like all of it now, and I freaking love Orcs now. Orcs are great. You need a comic relief, you know. They're there. I used to think they were just so silly and just didn't belong, but I've fully embraced the universe of Warhammer as time has gone by, and yeah. Being a little sloppier now. I painted a lot today. I'm getting a little tired. And speaking of painting, I'll talk about one more thing. I was thinking about doing this for a while, and I've done some more hobby-oriented videos, but I'm thinking about doing a paint series where I do some videos on how to paint. Now, I am a quick and messy painter, but I get pretty good results. I get a lot of compliments on my models, not to brag. And when I go into a shop, there's a lot of times where I do have... Okay, this is going to sound like extremely douchey. A lot of times when I go into hobby stores, I will have, especially with my more recent armies, I will have some of the best looking models on the tabletop in there. Not in the whole shop behind the display cases, but on the tabletops. And I am not the most patient painter, so I have a lot of techniques I use now and methods that get really satisfying results pretty quickly. And I don't really use contrast. So I'm thinking about doing some painting guides and painting videos. Originally I was going to call this quick paints. just to show you how to get a brush in your hand, get your models painted to a good standard, and get them on the tabletop. I'm thinking about changing the name to The War on Gray, as in your sprue gray, you know? Just to motivate people to get their models painted as fast as they can to a at least tabletop standard, if not better. So I'm thinking about doing something like that and having some painting videos. Let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know what you think about the name. Do you like quick paints, or do you think I should go with The War on Gray? If you guys would be interested in the paint techniques, I would love to share some. You know, I'm not sure this camera's. I might have to invest in some new camera equipment and lighting and stuff like that. But I would like to show some techniques. You know, I got really good at painting white with all those clone troopers. I've got a few techniques. I've been actually steering away from washes more recently and getting into just highlighting and edge highlighting and all that kind of stuff, working up from your base layer. And let's see, can we get this guy? Yeah, they came out really good. You know, I'll teach you how to paint leathers, metals, skin, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, express in the comment section down below. What do you guys want to see more of now? Like I said, I'm going to stay on track with the bolt action unit guides. Legion guys and girls, if there's any here. Yeah, you know, like I said, I hate to break it to you like that, but I've parted ways with Star Wars Legion. I'm not totally, you know, like I said, never say never. I'm not done with Legion. If you guys want me to cover stuff, say so. And then the painting. Would you guys be interested in painting techniques and stuff like that? And do you guys watch any of those older hobby videos I have? You know, again, this whole channel is supposed to be a resource for new players and people coming into the hobby and people who want to improve. I want people to be able to, even when I'm away, when I'm in the Legion, whether I'm in, you know, Mali outside of Paris or in French Guyana, I want some people to be able to come and visit the channel, look at these videos, and figure things out, whether it be information, techniques, all that kind of stuff. That's what I want it to be here for. I want it to be, even if I don't have my hands on, it can be a place where people can access it as a resource. And people have been doing that, and that's one of the big inspirations as to why I'm coming back and doing this video right now, is because I've gotten a lot of subscribers and viewers even while I've been away for months after months. And I appreciate everyone's support on the channel. Anyone who was concerned about me, I had some comments, you know, I hope you're okay and stuff like that. You know, that stuff does mean a lot, you know. We're more than just internet people painting plastic, you know. It is a hobby community, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm honored to be a part of it. And in the time I do have in between now and when I go back to Albania, I can hopefully interact a little bit more with you guys and get things going. So that's the check-in. That's the hobby update. That's what's going on with the channel. I might do some live streams too. We'll see what's up. You know, I'm asking you guys right now. You're the community. What do you guys want to see? So, yeah, we're in here painting some Cadians. And as always, until next time, guys, take care.